Òrdugh, Truaillidh! Welcome back to divisional play. It was a long, difficult road the past 8 weeks, and now we play our divisional foes for the second time to close out the regular season. There are so many massive matchups coming up with the potential for some teams fighting for their playoff lives, not looking to be eliminated already. We could also have no one eliminated, which would be a first in the league after 12 weeks. We've usually had at least one team eliminated by this point. Only 2 games separate more than half the league, and just 3 games separate 11 teams with 3 games to go. So there are teams that possibly could win division titles even though they're all the way down in the standings. Crazier things have happened and no one is in or out yet. We do have a few potential playoff berths that could be clinched depending on results. We'll discuss that a little bit later in the episode, but before we get to any of that, let's start off with our next as the 4-7 Siamese Catz travel to take on 6-5 risky business at the forests of Feall.
The forests of Feall connects the peaks of Oak and the flatlands of Skell with the wetlands of our own. The forests stretch throughout the planet in our world, and while sub-forests exist throughout, this is one large forest that nearly touches every single zone except for Cascade Isle. Though the forest does border the waters on the way to the island. The Queen's underground lair entrance is hidden somewhere within this forest, but as the seals weaken, so does the shield of protection. Many Aes Sidhe lived or roamed here in harmony before Obsidian's Abyssus returned. We were able to wander in the beauty of the entire planet and connect our minds to sing. But at the beginning of the war, the forest was a key for both hiding, travel, and ambush. The shadows left to go to your world mostly because the Aes Sidhe were able to confuse them in these forests. Shields and telepathic attacks angered Obsidian's Abyssus, forcing the shadows to abandon the forests and go to other areas on our planet. But it is always too good to be true. The chaos is always one plan away. As the Aes Sidhe roam free through the colorful trees, vegetation, and pathways, Obsidian's Abyssus sat back and waited for an opening. A race of demigods came through the area soon. The Truaillidh, who learned many skills on their travels, including magic. They collected treasures along the way and left some of these behind. They had last visited Earth on your dimension and had a twin treasure. One was left on Earth, and this one was brought to us. It had properties the Queen was interested in, so it was accepted. They called the treasure Feall, or the Stone of Destiny. The demigods said they left on Earth in your dimension for a future king, and this twin treasure would forever connect our world with that one. A gateway unlike any ever seen. Suddenly, Aes Sidhe were able to make it to your dimension without the dangers and dimensional instability of portals. Beware. Obsidian's Abyssus is always listening. The stone was easily corrupted and the portal became a gateway into the dark worlds of the shadows choosing. The Queen had to seal it away to protect the forest. But this is what began the first rise of Trekend. The shadows were able to keep a hold on the relics even as they were sealed. It took the Queen's intelligence and power to use that connection against Obsidian's Abyssus, blasting the power through the mega gate, sending the beast into the void and forcing the shadows to retreat to your dimension. We believed we'd won, But now the shadows came back and left a trail of chaos that ends with the imminent rise of Ellen Trekand yet again. Risky Business hosts the Siamese Dreamcats here in a huge late-season battle. But there's more danger. The artifact is now found.
Risky Business controls his own destiny, but will most likely need at least one win to make the playoffs, possibly two down the stretch. The Siamese Dreamcats need to win out and get some help. As far as Week 12 matchups go, though, both teams are fighting for something. Even if the Dreamcats can't make the playoffs, getting a first-round bye in the consolation bracket is meaningful in our league. Risky Business does have the edge coming in, though, with the computers giving him a 72.4% chance to win in this wetlands of our own matchup. Let's start with the defenses here because the Cowboys get another matchup on paper that should lead to double-digit points. The Eagles, which held their own against Kansas City, gets another tough test against Buffalo. This is a key area for the Dreamcats' chances. Risky Business will be looking to build a big lead from this spot in the lineup. And then we get the quarterbacks. Brock Purdy has been on fire for the Dreamcats, and he gets a primetime Thursday home matchup against Seattle. While another big game is possible, divisional primetime games are difficult to trust, especially on a Thursday. Kyler Murray is doing well after returning from his injury and within a new offense, using his legs and passing the ball deep. This is another key spot. The Dreamcats need to win this battle, but Murray can easily have himself a game with a few rushing touchdowns. Murray is up against the Rams, but he can elude Aaron Donald and escape sacks. Still, this is a divisional game with the Rams coming off a big win last week. Tony Pollard will need to keep close with Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey has been known to cancel out Purdy touchdowns with checkdowns he turns into end zone runs as well. Latavius Murray has actually been doing well in the 1B role in Buffalo, and Joe Mixon has a tough matchup and might be seeing stacked boxes with Joe Burrow out. CeeDee Lamb will need to be a star for the Dreamcats once again, while Romeo Doubs has been a touchdown-dependent wide receiver. On the other side, Tyler Lockett still can have big games and will be looking to have another one here, while Scary Terry McLaurin has a very tough matchup and has also been touchdown-dependent this season. TJ Hawkinson has the advantage at tight end, but David Njoku has the better matchup. And at kicker, Jason Myers has been on fire with 50-plus yard field goals, but Harrison Butker can hit a few of his own and has the better matchup. While the computers are clearly banking on some monster games for Risky Business, there are two players to watch that could be the fire for a momentum shift. For the visiting Dreamcats, I'm turning to Atlanta wide receiver Drake London. London has disappointed in a run-heavy offense, also with mediocre quarterbacks throwing his way. He only has 474 yards and 2 touchdowns in his second year, and he was ranked high and picked high in the draft. He has dragged the Dreamcats down this season. The problem is she needs him with not much else going on, and an Aaron Jones injury depleting her bench. The Dreamcats don't need 20 points by London, but a solid 12 would be a big-time boost. He has only done this twice this season. In Week 2 against Green Bay, he had 67 yards and a touchdown. In Week 6 against Washington, he had 125 yards. He was injured in Week 8, missed Week 9, was limited in Week 10, but now after a bye, he should be healthy again. New Orleans is not an easy matchup for yards, though, allowing just 139 yards per game to opposing wide receivers. They have allowed 7 touchdowns to the position, though. There are only 28.1 points per game allowed to the position, but London doesn't have much competition, with only really the tight ends, Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts, stealing passes away and potentially getting passing touchdowns. New Orleans is also good against the run, something to think about, allowing just 4 rushing touchdowns and no receiving touchdowns to that position. This could mean that the Falcons, who are normally run-heavy, could be forced to pass in the red zone. Though it must be noted that all 4 running back TDs have come in the past 4 weeks, and Bijan Robinson is doing much better lately as well. If London can find the end zone and get the Dreamcats a respectable number in the flex, it could be the difference for having a chance to get the upset. If he puts up another one of his many duds, though, it could mean lights out, unless there's a couple of 30-point performances elsewhere. On the home side, Risky Business, I'm looking at running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs started very slow this season with David Montgomery clearly the lead back in Detroit. That changed when Montgomery was hurt, with Gibbs stepping up and showing off his explosiveness. Gibbs has 512 rushing yards, 259 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. But 522 of his 771 total yards and all 5 touchdowns have come in the last 4 games. That's amazing. Now he gets to take on Green Bay, a team that the Lions decimated for 191 total yards and 3 rushing touchdowns from the running back position in week 3. That was Montgomery's show then, though. Gibbs had just 51 yards in that game. Those numbers could easily switch in week 12, though, with how well Gibbs has played. They could also steal from each other. We'll have to see. The Packers have allowed an average of 103 yards on the ground and 31 yards through the air to running backs each game. They've allowed 8 total touchdowns to the position. But they've had some interesting games lately that could throw wrenches in people's plans. They kept Josh Jacobs in check for the most part in week 5. They held Austin Eckler in check last week. They were also decimated by Najee Harris and Jalen Warren in week 10 and by Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin in week 7. So Jekyll and Hyde maybe. Regardless, Gibbs should get plenty of opportunities at home on Thanksgiving, with Jared Goff needing to bounce back from a terrible performance against the Bears. The best way to bounce back for a quarterback: just hand the ball off to your guys. If Gibbs continues to make big plays and reaches the end zone again, that could be the points advantage needed to put this game away. But if Gibbs, for some reason, puts up pedestrian numbers, it could open a door for the Dreamcats. So we're looking at the flex position for both these squads. And of course, when we get to this point in the season, it's all about the craziness of the NFL, right? Random players could vulture scores, turnovers can create opportunities or take them away. And of course, coaching can alter the landscape of our fantasy world. Schemes and strategy don't care if your player does well. They don't care about star players. It's about the team. And that could spell doom for some of us in some weeks. But there certainly are other tantalizing matchups in our league besides the game of the week, which could be affected in this way, including the other wetlands of our own battle. 7-4 Green Acres travels to Cascade Isle to take on the 6-5 defending champion Elite Mother Tuckers. The Elite Mother Tuckers are suddenly on the outside of the playoff positions and will need to win out to win the division now. A loss to Green Acres here, and it would mean that a division title is out of the question. It would also mean the playoffs could be slipping away, but the defending champs do have a 55.2% chance to win. Justin Herbert has a tough matchup against Baltimore, and CJ Stroud is playing a meaningful game in late November. This could be key in this one. Travis Etienne versus Gus Edwards, A.J. Brown versus Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore versus Ramondre Stevenson, and the Patriots defense versus Baltimore are huge spots in this one. Moving on to the peaks of Ulk, 7-4 Remember the Titans travels to 4-7 Air Jordan at the Caves of Brone Diomir. All eyes will be on this one with recent trades, and Remember the Titans looking to keep pace in the division, trying to stay in first. Computers call this one a 50-50 toss-up right now. That's amazing. Lamar Jackson versus Dak Prescott, Breece Hall versus Elvin Kamara, David Montgomery versus Derrick Henry, Brandon Ayuk versus Tank Dell, Sam Laporta versus Taysom Hill, and Puka Nacua versus Najee Harris are all key areas when this one's supposed to be as close as it is. In the other divisional matchup, the 5-6 Multiple Scoregasms travel to take on 7-4 the Stellar Bitches at the Purple Skies of Dashe. The Stellar Bitches need to make some coaching moves after a trade and will be hoping to jump Remember the Titans for first place in a divisional battle that might go down to week 14. The Stellar Bitches, based on expected moves, has a 56% chance to win. We are assuming Josh Dobbs plays, so all eyes will be on the Dobbs versus Trevor Lawrence matchup. Both actually have good matchups coming in. We're also assuming Bijan Robinson will be back in the lineup after his bye, and that matchup versus Saquon Barkley should be a good one as well. Other matchups to watch include Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Keenan Allen, Jake Ferguson versus Dalton Schultz, and the 49ers defense versus Miami. Finally, moving on to the flatlands of Skell, 7-4 Bandidos del Rio will be looking to fight off a surging The Clash at Demon Head as the host takes on 3-8 Loki Lebowski Thor at the deserts of Mehlu. Bandidos enters with a 72.1% chance to win. Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift and Raheem Mostert versus Devin Singletary and Miles Sanders, and Deebo Samuel versus Calvin Ridley all look like big matchups. The Chiefs versus Steelers defense could also loom large. The Steelers get a dream matchup against a backup quarterback. Lastly, in a must-win for my 4-7 Gashkia Slews, 6-5 the Clash at Demonhead travels to face my squad at the foggy fields of Aes Sidhe. My Slews enter with a 54.7% chance to win. Justin Fields versus Josh Allen, Austin Eckler versus Isaiah Pacheco, Stephon Diggs versus Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith versus Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid, and George Kittle versus Isaiah Likely and Jaden Reed are the big areas to watch in this one. Also, the Browns versus Jets defense could be a key area as well. While our league has been competitive and close all season, there are potential clinching scenarios in this next week. Bandidos del Rio can clinch the Flatlands of Skell with a win and a loss by the Clash at Demonhead. So Bandido's going to be rooting for me, obviously. A win in Risky Business and Elite Mother Tucker's losses would mean a playoff berth is clinched, so it's actually easier to clinch the division at this point. Remember, the Titans and the Stellar Bitches can clinch playoff berths with wins and losses by Risky Business, the Elite Mother Tuckers, and the Clash at Demonhead. So they need a lot to go on besides just a win. Green Acres can clinch a playoff berth with a win and losses by Risky Business and the Clash at Demonhead. A little easier than the last couple, but still needs a lot of help besides just winning. No one has a win in their in scenario, as we just talked about, but multiple teams have elimination scenarios. Loki Lebowski Thor will be eliminated from postseason with a loss or 2 wins by the Elite Mother Tuckers, Clash at Demonhead, and Risky Business. 2 of those 3 need to win. Air Jordan is eliminated with a loss or 2 wins by the Elite Mother Tuckers, Clash at Demonhead, and Risky Business. 2 of those 3 have to win. Since my Gashkia Slews are taking on the Clash at Demonhead, my squad would be eliminated with a loss and a win by either the Elite Mother Tuckers or Risky Business. This is not factoring the wild scenario of 3 or more teams tied with the same record at the end of the season, which is very possible. Tiebreakers are still to be determined with the final 3 weeks, giving us huge matchups, so that can't really even be projected at this point. No first-round buys can be clinched this week, even if teams win division titles. So there are some major storylines this week, and it should be a fun one. That's the show for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Join me this Sunday for the first bonus content of the season as I go over the winners and losers from our draft as of Week 11's results. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you're eating well and enjoying your time. Before you go, check out the updated power rankings. And until next time, Salud.